The book that writes your death, a true horror story. The fire was a fragile, flickering heart in the vast, cold darkness of the woods. 5 figures were huddled on mossy logs around it, their faces painted in shifting orange and black by the flames. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of wood smoke and damp pine needles. A boy named Finn sat with his knees pulled to his chest, a worn, leather-bound journal resting in his lap. He ran his fingers over its cover, which was tooled with a strange symbol, an eye inside a crescent moon. "This story," Finn began, his voice low and serious, cutting through the comfortable silence, "is called The Tale of the Last Page. It's not about a ghost that haunts a place, but a story that haunts a person. This is about a girl named Elara. Elara was a collector of secrets. She loved nothing more than exploring forgotten places and uncovering relics of the past. Her favorite haunt was the old Blackwood Library, a grand, Victorian-era building that had been closed for years after a fire in its archives wing. The town said it was condemned, but Elara knew a way in through a loose panel in the basement. One rainy afternoon, with the sky the color of bruised flesh, she slipped inside. The air was thick with the smell of old paper, damp, and something else, something metallic, like ozone after a storm. Her flashlight beam cut through the oppressive gloom, illuminating towering shelves of books, their spines cracked and peeling. She was searching for a specific section, occult and local folklore. In a dim corner, behind a collapsed shelf, she found a small, hidden study. It was untouched by the fire, a perfect snapshot of the past. At a large, oak desk sat a skeletal shape still wearing the tattered remains of a librarian's cardigan. It was the former head librarian, Mr. Ainsley, who had supposedly perished in the fire. He wasn't burned. He was just dried out, like a husk, his head resting on the desk as if he had simply fallen asleep mid-thought. In his bony fingers, he clutched a fountain pen. And before him lay the journal. Elara, her heart hammering against her ribs, pried the journal from his grasp. It was the one Finn now held. The pages were filled with frantic, spidery handwriting, detailing local legends and strange phenomena. But the last 10 pages were blank. Except for the very last one. On it, written in the same ink but in a calm, deliberate script, was a single sentence. "The story is not over until the ink is dry." She took the journal, a cold thrill of guilt and excitement mixing in her stomach. That night, in her bedroom, she pored over it. The writings were fascinating. Tales of a local spirit known as the Chronicler, an entity that sought to record every story, especially the final, terrifying moments of its subjects. According to Mr. Ainsley's notes, the Chronicler didn't just watch, it orchestrated. It would nudge events, create the perfect tragic ending, just to have a complete narrative. The first strange event happened the next day. Elara was walking to school, the journal tucked safely in her backpack. She passed old Mrs. Gable's house, known for its pristine rose garden. As Elara walked by, the journal in her bag seemed to grow cold. A sudden, powerful gust of wind, on an otherwise still day, tore through the street, and a large, rotten branch from an ancient oak tree crashed down, directly onto Mrs. Gable's prize-winning roses, utterly destroying them. Elara stood frozen. And from her backpack, she heard a faint, soft sound, the gentle scratch of a pen on paper. She fumbled for the journal and opened it. On the first blank page, words were slowly appearing, as if an invisible hand was writing them. It described the event in perfect detail, ending with, "And the thorns, like claws, lay broken in the sun." This was the first scary scene, the inexplicable event, the coldness of the book, and the horrifying, autonomous writing that documented it. Elara felt a deep, unsettling certainty that the journal hadn't just recorded the event, it had caused it. The fear escalated slowly, subtly. Small, tragic things happened around her. A neighbor's cat, a creature that always hid from strangers, suddenly darted into the road as Elara passed. The journal grew cold, and another paragraph was written. She tried to leave the journal at home, but a gnawing anxiety compelled her to carry it. It was hers now. She was part of its story. The second terrifying scene occurred at school. During a rehearsal for the school play, Elara was backstage, the journal in her duffel bag. She was talking to the lead actor, Mark, a kind boy with a bright future. He was joking about his lucky necklace, a stupid trinket his little sister had made him. The journal in her bag turned to ice. A sense of impending doom washed over Elara. She heard it again, the soft, scratching sound. She lunged for her bag, but it was too late. Backstage, a heavy sandbag, part of the counterweight system for the lights, came loose from its pulley with a sickening snap. It fell like a stone, missing Elara by inches and striking Mark square on the head. The sound was awful. In the chaos of screams and panic, Elara, trembling, opened the journal. The invisible pen was still writing, finishing its gruesome sentence, and the spotlight found him, but it was a light from which he would never wake. She ran. She ran all the way back to the Blackwood Library, to the hidden study. She threw the journal onto the desk where she found it. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Take it back," she screamed at the skeletal remains of Mr. Ainsley. But the air in the room grew thick and cold. The scratching sound didn't come from the journal anymore. It came from all around her. The sound of a fountain pen writing on parchment, 100 times over, echoing in the dark. The climax happened then. The shadows in the corner of the study deepened and coalesced. A figure detached itself from the darkness. It was tall and gaunt, dressed in the faded, ink-stained robes of a scholar from a bygone era. Its face was pale and elongated, its features blurred as if seen through old glass. But its hands were horribly distinct, long, bony fingers that ended not in nails, but in sharp, nib-like points that dripped with glistening black ink. This was the Chronicler. It glided toward her, not walking, but moving like a thought-given form. It stopped before the desk and picked up the journal with its ink-dripped fingers. It did not look at her. It looked at the book. It turned to the last written page, then to the next blank one. It raised one of its nib fingers. It began to write. The ink flowed from its finger onto the page. Elara watched in petrified horror as it wrote the next sentence of her story. Elara knew, then, that some stories are not meant to be found. The Chronicler's head slowly turned toward her. It had no eyes, only smooth, blank skin where they should be. Yet she felt its gaze, a pressure that promised a final, terrible ending. It took a step toward her. It was going to write her finale. It was going to use her to finish the tale. "No," she shrieked, and in a burst of adrenaline, she didn't run. She lunged forward and grabbed the old fountain pen still clutched in Mr. Ainsley's skeletal hand. As the Chronicler reached for her, its ink-dripped fingers stretching out, she didn't stab or fight. She did the only thing she could think of. She slammed the pen down onto the journal's last page, right below the Chronicler's fresh sentence, and she scrawled a single word with all her might. "Stop." The effect was instantaneous. The Chronicler froze. A tremor went through its form. It let out a sound that was the rustle of 1,000 pages turning at once, a scream of pure narrative dissonance. The word "stop" glistened on the page, a stark, chaotic blot of defiance in the midst of the elegant script. The entity recoiled, dissolving back into the shadows from whence it came, its form unraveling like forgotten words. The scratching ceased. The library was silent once more. Elara escaped. She left the journal there on the desk, next to its original owner. She never went back. She tried to forget. Life, for a while, returned to a fragile normalcy. Finn closed the journal. The fire had burned down to embers. The story was told. His friends around the campfire were silent, wrapped in the chilling tale. Elara moved away, Finn said, his voice quiet. She thought she'd broken the story. She thought her ending was, and she lived. He looked down at the journal in his hands. This arrived in the mail yesterday. No return address. He opened it to the very last page. He held it up to the dim, dying firelight. There, beneath Elara's frantic, scrawled "stop," a new sentence had been written in fresh, glistening, black ink. The handwriting was once again calm and precise. But every story needs an epilogue. Finn looked up from the journal, his eyes meeting the wide, terrified eyes of his friends. The woods around them were utterly silent, holding their breath. "It's not dry yet," he whispered. "If you listened all the way to the final page, then you're part of the story now." The Chronicler is always listening for an attentive audience. The archives are deep, and they hold more tales. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next story we pull from the shadows. Your subscription is like a candle in the stacks, it helps other listeners find their way. What do you think happens in the epilogue? Let us know your theory in the comments below. Maybe your ending can change the narrative, or perhaps it will give the Chronicler exactly what it's looking for. If this story left a mark on you, leave a like. It tells the algorithm that this tale is worth telling again, ensuring the ink never truly dries on our channel. But choose your next read carefully. Some stories aren't finished with you. Until next time, read wisely.